Here I go again with another episode and another question. First of all, my intention is always to make these episodes while we're out on a locksmith job with Keys to Life K2L Locksmiths. So we're on a job out in the Shelton area of Washington. I love going out on these jobs because being that this company, K2L Locksmith, is female owned and operated. I'm the one behind the scenes, and boots on the ground is my son or other locksmiths. And it gives me a chance to get out. It gives me a chance to socialize, see. I've met amazing, interesting, and also odd people. And so it's just thrilling to be able to connect with people from all walks of life. So anyway, let's get started. What does thriving look like after survival, and how did I rebuild my life without guilt? Guilt is key because guilt had been such a part of my subconscious. Guilt for not being good enough. Guilt for not being the best at anything. Guilt for how my children felt. Guilt for things that I shouldn't have felt guilty about, but thinking that somebody might get hurt or offended or whatever by what I was doing or saying. So the guilt was already there before the actual incident or conversation. And I made a promise to myself years and years ago, maybe 13, 14 years ago. We were out on a camping trip. We had all gone from Oregon to Mount Shasta Park. We went camping overnight, and the next morning we were all getting ready to leave, and it was maybe 10, 12 of us, all family, and it was for my oldest daughter's birthday. That's what she wanted to do, and I think 2 or 3 of her friends and my sister. And in the morning when we were all packing up camp, we were getting ready to leave, and one of my daughters, we couldn't find her or her husband or her child. We didn't know where they were. So my sister and I left a message saying, we're going to such and such a place. Let's meet up for breakfast. So we go there. Nobody comes. They're on the way. They're taking their time. So my sister and I continue on. And when we finally got back to her house, the daughter that we couldn't find was pissed with me. Pissed that I had the nerve to go, and I had this and that, and come to find out they had just gone to the showers to take a shower, but nobody knew. And so it was then that I made the decision that I would never again feel guilty about anything, because I did nothing wrong. We looked for her extensively, didn't even think about looking at the showers, left a message for them, and it was like, I said to myself, guilt is a useless emotion, and it only affects me, and it affects me negatively. So I made a decision then to consciously make an effort to never feel guilty again. But it was also a learning process, because guilt was my natural go-to. So in any situation, I learned slowly but surely that if feelings of guilt were coming up, I would automatically analyze it. Did I do anything wrong? Did I intentionally hurt anybody? Did I hurt anybody? And so it was really the stepping stone, that decision to not feel guilty about anything, with the confidence of learning to be confident in knowing that I'm a good person. I don't mean anybody wrong. I have good intentions. And that was the stepping stone for me to be confident in what I'm doing, what I am, what I'm saying. And it was also the stepping stone to me being okay with my life, for me to be okay with who I am. It didn't happen right away. It didn't happen overnight, but gradually, slowly but surely, I got to the point where I am today, where 9.9999 times out of 10, I don't feel guilty about anything. So that was, like I said, the first stepping stone to me not only becoming confident myself, but also thriving. In my last video, I mentioned that there were many days that were repetitious, that were mundane, and the thing was to keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And I remember the last place I lived in Haifa, in Israel. It was like an ugly, nasty building, but the apartment that we had, a very small 2-bedroom apartment, had really good energy, and it was renewed. And we had like a little porch, like a step porch. There's a particular name for it. A Juliet balcony, something like that, where immediately in front of the house and a little, like a couple miles out, was just abysmal, like trash, and then the factories and the smoke and the pollution. But beyond that, we saw beauty. It was the whole, I guess it was a bay. The waterfront from Haifa, it was like in a circle, and the mountains, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And it taught me to focus on what was beyond, what was the beautiful part, instead of looking out my window every day and thinking, oh, this place looks like shit. I ignored that part and was able to look at and focus on the part that was absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. So this was also a part of my training. And I feel like, you know the saying when they say, when the student is ready, the teacher is there, but the teacher may not always be a person. The teacher may be a situation. It might be a moment. It might be a vantage point or a view. And you get to choose, or I got to choose, what do I want to focus on? And I read a lot, and I love learning new things. And from what I understand in very simplistic terms, they found that, like with science, when they did scientific experiments or research, they found that the results were very influenced or specific to the observer. So whatever the observer was looking for or focusing on is what showed up. So the same thing for me. I learned to pay attention in coming out of the survival mode. I learned to pay attention to things that were crossing my path or in the moment. Like looking at the beauty instead of the trash was a learning experience. And really, I think it boils down to learning how to be grateful for things that might not be immediately in front of me. So even though I was ready to leave Israel, one of the things that I decided was I didn't want to leave Israel because I hated Israel and because I hated my life. I wanted to leave Israel because it was the right thing to do, because I didn't want to carry that negative energy with me into my new life, you know, in America or wherever I was going. I wanted to carry open energy and positive energy and new energy. So I focused on, okay, what are the good reasons for me leaving Israel? And being able to focus on the beauty trained my brain, trained my consciousness to be able to do that. So making a decision that with time, I would learn how not to feel guilty about anything, because I was learning to be confident in who I am and what I represent. I learned to focus on the things that made me feel good and look good, and I practiced finding the beauty in any given situation, even if it was a situation that was shit. Like I said in one of my videos, might have been the last one, and a really good friend of mine, nicknamed Skywalker, taught me years ago, even shit can make good fertilizer and you can grow nice things. You just have to be open to what can be grown, or look for what it is that you want to grow. So in any given situation, I was always looking for the silver lining. I was always looking for the fertilizer for the next moment. And even during the times that were mundane, I was waiting for that opening. I was waiting for that moment. And it's not just like I lay back in the cut and didn't do anything. I did things. I tried to stay at least mentally busy, if not physically busy, once the kids were growing and moving out of the house, so that whenever the moment showed up, I was there, I was ready for it. So I learned through the processes and through years to set up, for lack of a better word, building blocks to get me to the next stage, to get me to the next slide, to get me to the next moment. And so that's about it. That's what helped me. Those were the building blocks to get me out of the survival mode, to get me into who I wanted to be and how I wanted to be that person. And I wasn't always sure of what it looked like. And as I said before, 99.9% of the time, I felt lost. And I felt lost until I didn't. So that's it. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next episode.